All right. Well, thank you for joining us for another Microsoft User Group Utah, or the lovely acronym MUGIT. Love that. And what that is, for the folks that are located here in Utah, of course, we have our user group. MUGIT is kind of a top level kind of umbrella organization. We don't manage and control any of the user groups. There's about 12 to 14 Microsoft related user groups here in Utah. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to cross-pollinate between the various user groups. Of course, I'm on the board. I'm part of the SharePoint Office 365 user group. But we have Greg McMurray, who's the president of the Dynamics and is a member of the Power Apps and Power Automate user group. I guess it's the Power Platform user group. I've not been to it yet. But we try to channel all of their activities up through our Meetup site. So if you go to meetup.com and search on MUGIT, you'll find that. And we, of course, bring a lot of other events. Like we just had our 9th annual event. It used to be SharePoint Saturday. We moved it to Friday and rebranded it as Microsoft 365 Friday. And we doubled our numbers by moving it to Friday. So we're pretty excited about that, and you can find more information on that as well. It'll be a whole year, February next year, before our next one. But throughout the year, we're trying to bring in a bunch of outside speakers, and Tracy was so gracious to join us as she's on the road, always on the road. But Tracy, why don't you introduce yourself, who you are, where you are, what you do, and then I'll turn the time over to you.
Cool. Thanks, Christian. It's definitely, it's always an honor for me to be involved in other meetups. And I mean, how great is technology now for us to not be in a physical room? Because here I am all the way in South Africa, sunny, beautiful South Africa. It's been a warm day. And I'm in Franschhoek, actually. I'm on a wine farm at the moment down in Cape Town, so it's a really tough life for me. But so what do? Apart from traveling the world and riding my motorcycles and sipping wine in my garden, I'm unbelievably passionate about Office 365 and Microsoft 365 and enabling companies, changing cultures and things. So that's definitely something I focus on. And I mean, we've been friends for a couple of years. We see each other at conferences all the time. I definitely see you guys more than I see my parents. So just put that out there. My family really sees me.
Yeah, and I love telling my family members that as well, and they love it when I say that. Yeah.
Of course they do. Yeah. So if it wasn't for video and photos on social media, they would never see me. But you know what? We have a passion, or ikigai, as I call it, that we all live for, and a purpose of doing. This is definitely something that's close to my heart is helping end users and users and power users and companies to achieve more. So I think that kind of wraps it up. I don't know if you wanted to know more. Tracy van der Schuyf, all the way from sunny South Africa. I think that was a formal enough introduction.
No, that's great. And for anybody who has questions, feel free to use the chat. I'll be monitoring both the Q&A officially if you have a question, and I'll make sure that to interrupt Tracy and pose the question. Of course, there's anything that is a follow-up, and Tracy, I'll pass along to you if you want to follow up that needs to be followed up afterwards. But otherwise, you can reach out also in the chat, and I'll be monitoring that throughout. And over to you. I'll just let you kick things off.
Thank you so much. I think what I'm going to have to do, and that's typical when you know you're already on the screen, you realize you haven't done something. So I think I'll put this right up front and see if I can put a challenge out there. We reuse slides all the time. We use pieces from other presentations, from training and stuff. And I left a hashtag in this presentation. So anyone who spots it first gets a fake Ferrari. I thought I'd put that out there. So anyway, my talk today is something I have delivered at a previous conference as well, and I've done some training sessions on this. And it's about co-innovation and Microsoft 365. And a term that I'm quite happy to use lately is a mutualistic symbiosis. And I think that's something people don't get, how the apps and services actually work together. I hear it so often that people would say, Trace, we just don't know, we're so confused. When should we use this? When should we use that? And I think that's where the difference should come in. People should understand how to use apps together and not when to choose between apps. And I definitely hope that I can share some insights with you in this presentation, and then we'll see how much time is left and how many great examples and demo ideas I can maybe give to you as well to inspire you to do some great things. The focus of my presentation is definitely not technical. I'm not going to rip up a Power App here using Power Automate to, I don't know, do your onboarding solution. So if that was your expectation, I'll see if I can share a screenshot of something like that with you, but I'm definitely not going to build an app like that in this presentation. But I will share great ideas, and I do hope that I can inspire you to do more. My Twitter handle's not on there, but as Christian said afterwards, if there's questions we don't cover, please reach out on social media, either to myself or to him. And if there's questions, because that's exactly what we're passionate about. I mean, Christian knows this as well, that community is the most important thing that keeps us all together. And that's what we're there, is to help each other. So without further ado, and without to get into a whole spiel about me, is that I think the most important thing that people should know, and this is not just for me, it's for everyone out there, is that you shouldn't know everything, and you'll never be in a position again where you do think that you know everything. This is about knowing everyone who does, and that's why community is so important to me, is that we don't need all the answers. You just do need to know everyone who does, and you need to be in a comfortable position where you can reach out and speak to people. So if that's the only inspiration I can leave you, then it is to reach out and become part of the community, because there's an incredible community out there that's always willing to help. So don't be so hard on yourself. You definitely don't need to know everything. You just need to know everyone who does. So that brings me to co-innovation. And there's a couple of things I'd love to cover with you. I do hope the Wi-Fi is going to be okay. South Africa might be famous for their wines, but they're not famous for their wonderful bandwidth. So I hope all goes well. But the things that I want to work through with you is I want to talk about learning cultures first. And I know that seems like a non-technical thing to discuss when I talk about co-innovation, but that does have the biggest impact to come whether people adopt the technologies or not. So talking about learning cultures, then I'm going to touch a bit on creativity and innovation. I'm going to talk about my favorite thing, and that's mutualistic symbiosis. And that's how things feed off each other, but they're actually good for each other. You know, it's not just one getting from the other. And the apps and services that just works together beautifully. I'd love to share some demo and examples with you. And then I've got amazing resources that I want to share with you. And I know that this is going to get recorded, and Christian's just brilliant at sharing content as well. So I really hope that it's content that can help everyone to stay up to date. Because I do think that that's one of our biggest challenges now, is that features gets released on a weekly basis. So you might know what you know today, but I can promise you by Monday, things have changed, or there's new features, and that's definitely quite a big difference or a big impact for us. So the first thing I do want to chat about is learning cultures, and I definitely come across different ways of different symbolic ways, or different terms, or juxtaposing things. And one of the recent ones that I like using is talking about the smartphones we have now. Most of the people that I meet have smartphones. Okay, I actually have not met someone that does not have a smartphone anymore. And if I think of the first thing that users normally tell me, and not just users, even IT people, even companies who's moving across to cloud technologies or Office and Microsoft 365, is that they say that there's too many apps. They've got too many choices. Or Trace, we don't know what to use. I mean, I don't know. Is it Yammer? Is it Teams? I mean, when do I use SharePoint? And even though I have empathy for it, I don't quite understand it. Because if we look at our smartphones, I mean, my smartphone's crazy with the amount of apps that I have. I've got about 6 apps just for editing images. The one's better at text, the one's better at filters, the one's coloring is better, and the grading's better. So I've got loads and loads and loads of apps on my phone. We don't just have one app. We don't have one app that does emails, that does chat, that does photos, that say, I don't know, we don't have that. So we don't have that on our smartphones, but for some strange, odd reason, we expect that at work. We expect to just have that single version of the truth that does everything. And life just doesn't work like that anymore. Now, a big thing for me, the reasoning behind this, there's a psychology behind why we work different with technology at work than what we do at home. So if I had to think at home, and if I think of the time we spend to do things, there's quite a big difference. So at home, if I have to take a new app, I can easily spend hours. Okay, a lot of that sometimes is in my garden drinking wine and the sun is shining, but I can easily take hours to learn a new app. Hours and hours figuring out how it works, how the menu works, go watch a YouTube video to figure out how it works. But at work, we don't take that time at all. And the first reason for that is that we don't allow people to take time off to learn at work. Their KPIs and their job descriptions and their tasks and activities never include evolving. So even though companies' mission statements are that we want to evolve and we want to grow, we don't allow our employees to do that. So firstly, your employees are just so overloaded that they don't have time to learn at work. It's the thing that I hear most often is that, Trace, please help us roll out Office 365. But you know what? You can get maximum 90 minutes per user to train them. And then I just tell companies they should just give me the money and I'm not even going to arrive for the training because that's pretty much what's going to happen. I'm going to waste their money. So we don't have time to learn at work, but we tend to make time at home to learn.
Hey, Tracy, I have to ask, do any clients agree to that scenario where they just send you the money and then you don't show up and do the work?
Of course they do, Christian, all the time. That's why I'm sitting on a wine farm. But it does make them think different because that's exactly the point. I mean, how much do you think you're going to teach someone in 90 minutes? Especially people that comes from very old environments where they're not used to cloud technologies. It's such a big challenge that we have, and companies just think wrong. I think the second scenario there, which why I think users tend to learn easier at home or on their smart devices or on their home PCs. And I'm very sorry for the IT people in the room or the IT people that are listening, or even you, Christian. But you know me, I've got no tact, so it's not that I care if I'm going to hurt your feelings. The thing is at home, we don't have someone who's going to make us feel bad for being stupid. Because at home, if I'm trying out an app and I'm really not getting it right, it's not like I'm going to log a call and the guy at IT is going to say to me, why did you click on that? Why did you go there? Why did you download the wrong app? You're not supposed to do that, you know? Why didn't you log a ticket first? So I don't have that fear at home as what I do at work. And there's a lot of companies that still struggles with that culture where for years, through IT support, we kind of made users afraid of speaking up when they feel inadequate or they don't think they're being efficient. And it's just because we just didn't deal right with the situations. Now, the other thing is at home, I don't have my peers around me. I don't have the employees, maybe my boss or people that report to me around me that's going to think, gee whiz, Trace doesn't even know how Instagram works. You know, how stupid's that chick? So we don't have that psychological thing where we're afraid that people will point fingers at us. We're just so much open and free to be able to learn an app, to take time to figure it out. And that's how learning's supposed to happen. That's organic learning. But sadly, because of cultures and because of work pressure, we just don't have the time at work to learn like that. And that's definitely one of the challenges I think we do is the time thing. And that time thing's pretty important to me. Okay, it's I don't think it's being addressed in companies well. And this is just to kind of like iterate that whole how we deal with support calls wrong, because that changes learning cultures. I always use the example, and we're going to use an example of Christian Buckley today. Okay, so I'm IT support desk. Are you okay with that, Christian?
As long as you're not claiming that's a photo of me, yes.
Of course, that's a photo of you. We all know that's a photo of you, and that's your favorite little computer there, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So which department do you want to be from, Christian?
I'm in marketing. Come on.
Oh, you're in marketing. Okay. So this is a typical scenario that I want people to think of. So this is Christian phoning me. I'm the IT support help desk, and my phone rings and he says, hi, it's Christian from marketing. And I kind of put him on mute immediately. I can just stick a pen in my right eyeball. I'm so tired of Christian phoning me with these issues. I can't believe he's got a computer. I mean, I don't know how he does his job. It's just crazy. But I eventually take him off mute and like massage my temples and look if there's cough syrup in my drawer or something. It'll make me feel better. I don't know. And Christian, I like ask him what's gone wrong, and Christian will say that he hasn't been able to work for days. Long story short, he's deleted his Excel, or someone's deleted his Excel. I mean, it happens all the time. And he's pretty much just deleted the shortcut off his desktop, right? It happens all the time. And what we've done for years in IT is that we've then logged in and put that shortcut back for that user. So in a way, I keep Christian stupid. I'm not teaching him how to fix this. I didn't even tell him about the Windows button. I'm not even saying, listen, you can just search for it. You don't have to use shortcuts, because shortcuts actually slow you down. So sadly, And without knowing, because I don't blame IT, it's just that our KPI and our measurements has been like that forever, is that the measurement is to fix the problem and fix it as quickly as possible. And some users just take longer to learn something or to show something, and I get that. But we kind of need to change that. If we want to change learning cultures, we need to help users figure out their own problems, or we need to help people to fix their own problems and not just fix the problem. So that's Christian deleting his Excel shortcut again off his desktop, like he deleted PowerPoint yesterday. But anyway, but that's again me not helping Christian. I think that's the challenge. So there it is. Anyway, so culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's such a cool quote, that, and it's so cool, is no matter what strategy you put in place, people, if the culture in the company is not good, if the learning culture is not there, then it's just not going to happen. If the people don't believe that they can do something, they're not going to co-innovate with Office 365. So this is my company statement and mission statement, and it's also my personal one. I love this, and that's to facilitate the evolution of human capabilities. Now, I'm only one person in my company, and I've never wanted to employ more people. I think it's too stressful, so I've just never worried about that. But imagine this, if that's my company mission statement, is to facilitate the evolution of human capabilities. So the only thing I believe in is that I want to enable people, right? So there's Tracy on the left-hand side. She wants to enable and empower people. So let's say I now employ, I don't know, quickly count that, what is that? 5, 3, 8 and something, let's say like 20 or 15 people or something. So I'm employing people now, and those people's KPIs or job descriptions is to make money. I mean, that's just how business works. They're transactional, they have to capture invoices, they have to get orders in, they've got to sell stuff, they've got to do the books, whatever those transactional things are. So if you look at that, you'll see that my company mission statement already becomes skewed, because a lot of times companies don't live their mission statement or their strategic objectives into the employees' KPIs. I just never see this in companies. I seldom see that employees understand that the job that they do adds not only to the bottom line, but also adds to the company's mission and what they want to achieve in the world. And that's one of the challenges, is that empowerment that I live for won't be able to pull through to my employees because they're just transactional. And that's something we have to change. If we change those employees into people that want to empower and evolve and invest in themselves and self-learn and do their jobs, then maybe people will have time for training. But sadly, I definitely don't see that everywhere. So next up, so just to recap, I was talking about culture there, and especially learning culture and why it is that people struggle to learn in work environments versus at home. And I hope that that makes you think a bit about your smartphone or learning at work and having time to learn. If we could go back and say that we're going to change all the job descriptions of employees now and say that every single employee now has, even if it's 2% of their time, I don't know what 2% in hours is, if I had to work it out now, but even if we had to say 2% of their time had to be towards evolving and self-learning, then we could say that people should make time to learn. And I think that's a big thing that we have to do, but we don't do that. We just, we stand behind them with whips, and we're just chasing them to be transactional. And I think that's quite a sad thing for me. So creativity and innovation. Now, this is something I've actually spoken about way too often, but I don't think I'm getting tired of the subject. And I've gotten a lot of traction on this, spoken a lot at Ignites about this as well. And that's digital literacy. So a couple of years ago, I started doing some research on PC literacy and whether people are PC literate and why they're so struggling to adopt cloud technologies. I just couldn't understand it, because for many of us, it's very intuitive and it's easy, but there's loads of people that are struggling. And I started looking at, that, what is it called? Is it the Maslow triangle or something? You know, kind of like describes the basic
the hierarchy of needs, the Maslow hierarchy.
Yeah. So Wi-Fi, water, wine, all those things. So if you look at those,
just the essentials there, yes. Yeah.
Wi-Fi, water, and wine. So if you have to think of that, we as humans, the industry where we're in now, the world we're in now, how we've evolved, we're all supposed to be like digital citizens. We're not there yet, but with all the smart devices, with technology, we're supposed to become digital citizens. It's something we as a person should become. Like you should have a passport or something, you should also be a digital citizen. And there's certain skills that people need to just be better humans, okay? This has got nothing to do with your work. It's going to make you better at your work. And this is the methodology I came across, the 8 pillars of digital literacy. I definitely didn't design the methodology, I just drew the picture. But it so worked for me, and you'll see it later in the webinar, because it talks about critical thinking and evaluation, e-safety, cultural and social understanding, collaboration, curation of information, being a proficient communicator, being creative, and having practical and functional skills. So those are incorrectly concerned or considered as a soft skills, but are definitely not all soft skills. But it's actually technical skills. And when I came across this, I realized that Office 365 actually addresses a lot of those. And I started basing my campaigns on that to help people understand the co-innovation of Office 365 is if you look at the soft skills. Now, for some of you that might know the ADKAR methodology, that sits in, is it Prosky? I never know how to pronounce it. But it's a change management methodology. And ADKAR talks about creating an awareness first. People must be aware why they need something or why they're not so good at what they're doing at the moment and why they could be better. And then creating the desire, so making people curious as to want to know more and want to have it. Giving them the knowledge, making sure that the ability exists, your infrastructure, your teams, everyone's trained up. And then, of course, your continuous feedback, of course. So that's a return cycle or reinforcement to make sure that people actually have momentum on training and stuff. Now, those type of things makes people adopt technologies better. If we create an awareness up front, employees are happier to adopt technology. So for years, and I'm pretty sure no one else did it, but I can promise you where I worked, it happened like that. For years, we would throw technology at users and then see what they're going to do with it. So on Saturday, someone plays golf and they heard, oh, their friends got SharePoint 2010, and who knows what's happening Monday, we have SharePoint 2010. I mean, that's how we installed or deployed technology for years. And then we would just sit back and see what the users are going to do with it. And I can promise you that does not create happy environments, and that does not create people that understand why we're using these apps and services. So staying up to date. So I spoke about digital skills there, saying that when people work on those digital skills, and when we give them resources to build on digital skills, they're happier employees. And I can promise you, happier employees cost you less, they do more, they're more creative, and they're more innovative, which is good for business. And I also spoke about the learning cultures, and I want you to have empathy with why people are struggling with the technologies, because there's much more to it than just people being difficult. Okay, it definitely isn't about that. It's all about self-esteem, it's all about skill. So staying up to date, the next slides are going to be a lot of resources that I want to share with you. And if you can make notes, but this will be up as well, the recording. I'm pretty sure Christian's going to share it. So the first resource that, before I get to the first resource, obviously, the first thing I do want to talk about is the process of staying up to date. Now, I don't know how many of you know my crazy story and how it is that, so I must probably ended up having this chat with you today. But it did start with wine, because no good story starts with a green salad, by the way. But it was the 29th of Feb, which was leap year. And I was sitting in my garden, and I was just having thoughts about my job and what I'm doing and cool things. And I had this crazy idea that I think I should do something cool on the 29th of Feb, because it's not something that happens every day. And then I had another crazy idea, because I think in pictures. I draw little pictures and then it starts ideas or projects. So I had this crazy idea to do a campaign and call it Around the Office in 365 days. Okay, because I decided that I don't think people love Office 365 as much as I do, and I think it's because they're not sure what it does. But I also still had a lot to learn, and I just didn't know where I would get time to learn it. There was just so much to learn in the apps and services. So of course, I had another glass of wine, I thought about it, and I went to bed. And I woke up that next morning and I thought, thank goodness I did not post something on social media about that, because imagine if I had to write an article every day for 365 days, it would be crazy. But of course, I did post that on social media, and I didn't just post it on LinkedIn, I posted it on Twitter and on Facebook. It was crazy. And I had so many people saying that that's a great idea and they wanted to support me that I decided to do it. So for 365 days, I spent a lot of time. I spent 4 to 5 hours a day doing research and writing articles and stuff. But I did start it as my learning journey. I said that I'm going to learn every day and then document it, which helps you learn, and then share it with people so that other people can learn. And that's how I kind of worked through all of this craziness. But what I want to leave with you in that is that is that if you leave it to a day where you think you're going to learn, you're just not going to learn. If you think that once a year you're going to go for a course, it's going to be too late because technology is moving too fast. But if you take 5 minutes a day, if you just every day take 5 minutes, so every morning, and I use Twitter as that platform, actually, every morning I take 5 minutes when I have my first cup of coffee, and I just scroll through what blogs there's been, what features has been released, and I make notes on the things I want to follow up. And that kind of like is equal to 8 hours every 4 months, or 3 days once a year, by the way. But it adds so much more value because it keeps you relevant and it keeps you up to date. So just think about how you spread that learning, because you can't do this once a month. It's too much. And I'm sure Christian will agree with me as well, or anyone else in the industry. The amount of information out there is so much that if you have to do this once in every couple of months, it's just going to be overwhelming. Going to be like taking a sip from a fire hydrant. It's just crazy. So think about spreading that learning out every day and learning little bits every day. So if I think of staying up to date, the first site that I give anyone to go and have a look at is what's new in Office 365. So please don't forget that Office 365 or Office Pro Plus is your most business critical app. You might not think so, but all your users are using it, and they've released incredible features in the Office Pro Plus. So this website, but you can also see these details in Office as well. So this shows you what all the releases were per month. It kind of groups it and says this was released for PowerPoint or Visio or OneNote. I mean, I saw today that there's a new feature for Visio that you can now draw something in Visio and import it to Power Automate. I mean, what? How crazy is that? But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't go and check it out, by the way. So this is something that I do keep my eye on, and I make sure that my users are aware of this as well, and my product champions and change management and training people, because we've got to kind of be up to date with what the latest little cool things is that's been released. That, of course, is available inside the Office apps as well. Then the Microsoft 365 roadmap is very, very important to me as well. This focuses more on the technical side. So if you go and search for SharePoint or Teams, etc., you can find the latest things that are in development or that they're busy rolling out or that's been launched. It also gives you a reference article there that you can click on, and sometimes there's a little blog you can read or a little video. So that's definitely a wonderful resource to keep your eye on as well. Then Office 365 Training Center, very, very cool. Lots of little infographics and templates and cheat sheets. There's incredible resources there if you want to point to resources or tips or just unbelievable resources in the Office 365 Training Center. Then, of course, if you don't belong to the Microsoft Tech community yet, why not? The tech community has got all the blogs. You can see them there on the right-hand side. All the blogs you can go follow. You can sign up, and you can kind of like build out your profile as to the products that you're interested in. In the tech community, it's quite identifiable as well. The MVPs, the Microsoft people, and the other community. And it's quite an engaging platform. They share blogs there. They share the monthly wrap-up updates as well. So pretty cool Microsoft Tech community to belong to. I would definitely consider belonging to it. It's got adoption streams. It's got the Humans of IT stream. So please become part of that community. Then, of course, I think this is kind of like a tech Bible for a lot of us. This is the place, docs.microsoft. So to go there to learn about the more technical, how do you look at this, what the deployment is for that. There's lots and lots of resources here. So this is definitely a place I would bookmark as well and make sure that you know where you can find things or to search for things. Because believe me, it's difficult when you go to the browser and you just go and type in, how should I fix this? And you find gazillions of articles and 25 million Wikipedia articles, which is just shocking. And then crazy people like me who write blogs, and you just don't know who to trust and what's valid and what's relevant. So this is definitely the one place that you can go to make sure that you do look at the right content. Then something I always tell clients is, please don't tell me you have a problem with something if you haven't logged a ticket. So go to the user voice. If you want a new feature, go log it. See if someone else hasn't logged it yet. If they have, vote for it. If it gets enough votes, then it moves up on the importance ladder for being developed. So please look at this. And then all the apps as well has suggested feature. You'll see it in Teams. You'll see it in Office. So look for the suggested feature inside of the apps as well to suggest when you do have a new feature. There you can actually see that's just looking, oh, that's cute. That was still Microsoft Flow. Anyway, called Power Automate now, by the way, also known as. Then there you can see is the what's new in PowerPoint, there's the show training, there's the feedback, contact support, and you'll see the suggestive feature in all the other apps as well. So please take note that you can see those. And most of the apps has training built into them these days. You can actually, in the app, just go and look for training. The Microsoft 365 learning pathway is super important. This is a site collection that can get deployed inside of your tenant. And Microsoft actually pushes the training material there. So I would definitely sign up for that and have that site collection deployed. You need global admin to do that, though. I'll share the resources now. In the champions program, please take a look for that as well, for any champions you have in your company, to make sure that they can stay up to date. I just want to go. This is incredible, by the way. So at the moment, I'm still presenting, but good grief, I don't know if you guys have seen these resources. This is the adoption resources. So, for example, if you go to that Microsoft Teams adoptions guide, it's a flip book in the browser. It's sexy as like she was, as a flip book can be, okay? You can page through there. There's resources in. I'll see how much time we have, and I'll quickly show you one on the screen. But with videos and resources, there's incredible resources here. Microsoft has done so much work in the last about a year and a half, 2 years around the adoption material. So like unbelievable tools out there. And remember, on the adoptions out there, there's services adoption specialists that you can actually certify in on edX, done by Caruana and her team. So definitely a cool thing to look for that. So that's the adoption tools. So here's the learning pathways detail, by the
Tracy,
way. So
you point out too that edX course, if you've not seen that, it's free. I mean, you have to pay.
I know.
Pay $100 if you want the certificate at the end of that. But again, you could take the course and it's free for the adoption. Yeah.
That's absolutely good to know. So I'm sorry that I did miss that, but you can absolutely do the whole course. You can go through all the content. It's quite a good structured course, especially for people who use change management. So for some of us, it's done change management for a long time. Some of it was new, some of it was based on Office 365, but it's an incredible resource. And as Christian said, you only have to pay that like $99 or something if you actually want the certificate, if you want to certify. Incredible course. It's definitely worth it. And even if you're not a change management person, let me tell you what, there's a lot of food for thought in there for people that are deploying Teams and deploying Office 365 for things you should consider, because a lot of companies are not considering the right stuff. So definitely a great course to go and look at is that. Then there's the 365 learning pathways detail. This is really incredible. If you guys are not using this, this is unbelievable. So let me just recap that again. So what happens is, there's a lot of other little things that you need to know, but you need to be a global admin because this needs to be deployed to your app store. You need to build this as a site collection. But this is a site that you then build inside of your tenant, part of your SharePoint site collections. And it's got all the pages in it with the learning pathways for the different Office 365, even Office, Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, unbelievable. And you can structure it and customize it the way you want it and add extra pages and things. But Microsoft keeps the pages and the content up to date. It's like really pretty amazing, okay? And you can see there they're saying that line languages will be supported from early 2020. So this is part of the stack that I'm delivering at Ignite as well, as I'm talking about these tools that are available. And that's definitely, if you are not seeing this yet, you better go and look at it. It's well worth it. Because the days are gone where we create our own training material, by the way. It's just changes too often. So to do that would just be crazy. Now, this is the other pretty impressive things. Have you seen the productivity score, Christian?
I have.
Mm-hmm. So just as a quick explanation for those of you who might not have seen it, this is quite new. So you can sign up for the preview. You need your tenant ID. Okay, so if you're not sure how to get that, go research a little bit on that first, because on the form it's going to ask you for your tenant ID. But what the productivity score does, so it's in the admin center. You need to be a global admin for it though, but at least someone can give you the reports. So if I think in the past of how reports would tell us that we've got this usage, etc. So in Power BI, there's an adoption pack that tells you how much usage you've got on OneDrive, how many files, blah, blah, blah. But the productivity score takes a different angle. So the productivity score looks at different areas, so how people collaborate, how they have meetings, how they work remotely, etc. And it then gives you a scoring based on the industry you're in, the size of your company, etc. And so it doesn't tell you whether you're wrong or right. It just tells you where you are against other companies. And it then says, listen, if you want to fix this or make this better, here's some actions. And I think that's a pretty awesome thing. So for example, one of them could be collaboration, and it's attachments on emails. So maybe, I don't know, 20% of people are sharing links and 80% are still sharing attachments on emails. And that's a measurement, something that you want to change, or a behavior that you want to change. And it then gives you a list of actions and resources that you can do to change that behavior. So I would definitely check out the productivity score if you haven't seen it. It is still in preview.
Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't it? It's also showing kind of comparable organizations. So it's not like pulling data from, if you're a company of 50 employees and your collaboration patterns might be very different than an enterprise of 100,000 employees. So it is looking across organizations of all different sizes. So it really is a composite view of that. But you can, I believe,
the comparison it does do is that does look at companies in same industry as well as companies of same size. So the comparison is quite square on that point, if I might add. But I think the greater benchmarks definitely looks at bigger behaviors. But again,
this is a great addition, because I know that when they did the analytics, all the my insights, the personal insights, some of the questions immediately people started asking is, well, can I get this for my entire company? Can't I see? And so this is kind of a response to those requests with the personal.
I think so. It's definitely still in preview, guys. So if you see that, they're relying heavily on our feedback. Okay, so if you don't say something, you're not going to see it. Okay. But we've already given a lot of feedback there. I think one of the things we'd love to see there is that we want to see behavior in specific groups. So if you think Office 365 groups, there might be a Microsoft team for the marketing team, and I want to be able to track and measure behavior in a specific team. So that was a big thing. And then also only global admins can see this. So to be able to see if we can have an administration role for usage or adoption, so that they can actually access these type of reports. But it's really definitely something good, people. I would so look at this, because this not only give you insights, it also gives you an action plan, which I think is incredible. Lots of great resources and reading matter that can help you to how to correct those behaviors. And it doesn't just do that, it also tells you why it's a good idea. So when you look at those different areas and we say that it's good for people to collaborate better, there will be articles to say that why is it good for a company if people collaborate better, why is innovation good, etc. It's such an incredible tool. I'm super excited about this, and I can't wait to see where we're going to go with it in the next year. And I'm going to keep on pushing, getting customers on this so we can look at the data and see if we can make it better. Absolutely. So there's another slide. I've spoken about community quite a bit. This is one of my last ones. I definitely am a big fan of Twitter, okay? And a lot of people aren't, but it's for me the fastest way to consume like latest little tech snippets. It's not that I don't follow boring people on Twitter. I mean, I don't even think I follow you, Christian. I'm not sure, but
yes, you do. Yes, you do. You get all my spam. Yes.
But I do definitely follow all the major product groups of Microsoft, and that just makes me, and it keeps me in the loop. But then also Facebook, LinkedIn, the MVP guys, but community is the all and the end all, people. So there's that beautiful word in Bantu, it's an African language, it says Ubuntu, I am who I am because of who we all are. Don't ever forget that we're the strongest part of all of it. So please become part of the community. Please please reach out. Please become someone that gives advice and shares ideas as well and things like that. So this now kind of brings me into the mutualistic symbiosis. And how cool is that picture? Who remembers those apps? Those things gave me nightmares, to be quite honest. But anyway, so if I take a look back, and you remember in the beginning I said that I don't always understand why people say they have too many apps, okay? Because we have way too many apps on my phone, and I mean I'm handling that quite well because I know when to use what. But if I have to look, and I'm definitely not talking on behalf of Microsoft, okay? This is me playing guessing games and coming up with interesting stories. But if I have to look at SharePoint, okay, before we had Office 365, SharePoint was most of our worlds, okay? Most of us that's the place where we played. And if you looked at the older SharePoint on-premises versions and you looked at the type of apps we could build in there, so there's a contacts list, announcements, issue tracking, links list, picture library, promoted links. Oh boy, I missed that. Promoted links was my favorite thing. Tasks, surveys, wiki page libraries, form libraries, data sheets, document libraries, discussion boards, calendars, all of those type of things. So at some point, SharePoint kind of was our start all and end all. Okay, we kind of like could fix and do anything in SharePoint, or we tried. And let's face it, I don't even care if Microsoft listens to me. Not everything was perfect. Some of these apps just didn't quite wax it. I don't know who remembers the fact that we used to stop people loading videos on SharePoint because it just didn't work so well. The surveys was kind of okay, but we couldn't share externally and things. And I saw what happened during this whole when Office 365, if I kind of like look at this, SharePoint's still a core thing for me. I mean, it's still the main core for me, even though people don't really see it in the background so much anymore. But a lot of those apps that we used to build out of SharePoint has now become separate apps and services. And I mean, I don't think people always realize that. It's just that Microsoft, I think they kind of looked at not compromising and trying to be too many things at once in SharePoint, and rather being strong in separate apps. And I mean, if I look at those, Stream is now my strong app to have my videos in, and the discussion board and announcements, I mean, if I think of Yammer, is perfect for that. And my document library and calendar and tasks, I mean, I'm having all of that in Planner and Teams and OneDrive. And there's just, I mean, forms for my surveys. And I mean, Microsoft, I mean, there wasn't even a cool thing where I could build nice graphics in, and I have Sway for that. There's just incredible apps. So if you look at that picture, you kind of understand better, because we've always had that co-innovation, but it kind of sat together in one place, and now it's kind of moved a little bit further away from each other, and they integrate better with each other, and they're just so much stronger, because on their own, they became much stronger. They weren't reliant on other things inside of the same app. So that's where the biggest thing happened, was that scatter of apps and services that became separate apps and services. And I don't always think users understand that that's what happened, you know, that we actually had Office 365 before. It was just called SharePoint. I'm going to get into trouble for that. You better cut that out of the recording, Christian.
I'll put it in my liner notes. I'll see if I get to
it. Of course you're going to. You're going to hashtag that, baby. Okay, so when you look at looking at rolling out Office 365 or getting a company on cloud technologies, you have to have empathy with how they did things in the past and how that maps to the future. So remember, maybe in the past, all my work, my personal stuff, my work drafts was on my PC, preferably on my desktop, most probably in the file share. If I shared stuff externally or with other people, it was obviously done via email. And my departmental stuff might have been on SharePoint or the file share. And now there's just so much more options. So please look at making sure that you have cool infographics that describes these things better to end users, because it is difficult to kind of map that new way of thinking in the beginning. Because remember, your brain builds muscle memory of doing things. So they're going to keep on doing things in the old way they did it. And it's not because they're being stubborn. It's just that it's always been the way we did. And it's just easy for our brains to follow that methods or something. So let's take a look at the mutualistic symbiosis between the apps. And I definitely want to look at the time. Now, this is the picture I shared in the beginning, the 8 pillars of digital literacy. So I know this becomes a little bit chaotic, but this is more for us when we start understanding the apps. But if you look at any of those, once you explain to users what the need is for having those skills, you can then start plugging in the apps into them to say that, you know what, to be more creative, these are the tools that's going to help you be an absolute rock star. So using Stream and Sway and even Forms, OneNote's great for those things as well. PowerPoint, of course, I'm the biggest fan. SharePoint. So creating the awareness first and then giving the solution for what it is that they need. And that's what we've always done the wrong way around. So creating that awareness, what the skills are that we all need to be better humans, better employees, better, I don't know, husbands, wives, fathers, mothers, children, and then understanding what the different apps does for us. I mean, if we look at e-safety, people don't understand why we have to reset their passwords, because we've never told them the real reasons behind it. We just tell them that that's what we said, and that's what they should do. So, or why they lock their computers when they walk around. Why is there a policy that locks their machines? So these type of things is important, is building that relationship for the employee back to the skills and saying how those apps works together to actually help them develop those skills, but to help them be more efficient and more comfortable and happier at work. I think that's pretty important to me. So demo and examples. The first thing, of course, and I might not demo this. I've got some dodgy friends who might post things in Teams while I'm on a webinar, so I'm definitely not going to open Teams. But if you look at Teams, people, please be careful of Teams. It's an incredible tool, but it's incredibly powerful. And it's not fair for people to just run around and create teams when they don't understand the impact in the background. People have no idea what happens when a team is created. I've seen people create teams as if it's folders. They want to, oh no, I just wanted a new folder for the annual reports for next week that's coming up. Boom, there's another team. Oh no, I just wanted one for Mary's birthday on Monday. So it's not fair to pass that responsibility and that power on if people aren't informed. Teams is absolutely the ultimate adoption catalyst in my eyes. I do consider it, and here's another thing you can go hashtag, I do consider Teams the gateway drug that leads to the consumption of the other drugs in Office 365. This is the best thing that's going to lead to the rest of it making sense for people. So Teams supplies my storage, of course, my ways of communication. It supplies me my productivity tools, Planner and OneNote. Tasks is being integrated in there now as well. It's giving me my automation, Power Automate, Power Apps. If I think of the other apps and services, Forms, Power BI, Sway, Stream, all of that can plug into Teams. If I look at the people on content, I mean, I don't know if you guys have even seen the WhoBot. Most people that I meet has never seen the WhoBot in Teams. I'm like, what do you mean you've never seen the WhoBot in Teams? It's the coolest thing around, the WhoBot. But anyway, the WhoBot in Teams, and then of course you can add other tools. And then of course the co-authoring and how the different Office documentation, apps and services works together is unbelievable. Teams is the perfect co-innovation tool to bring all those apps and services together. And I'm pretty convinced that whatever I can't plug into a Microsoft team will not be adopted. I even bring my intranets into Teams. I bring all my SharePoint sites into Teams because why? Users are just too busy to navigate to other places. So definitely a different way of thinking of it. SharePoint kind of does the same for me. Well, obviously it does the same for me. It just doesn't have a team in front of it in that necessarily, but also understand how SharePoint, and I spoke about that, all those apps and services that are available before, understand how on SharePoint I can now surface other content. I can on a SharePoint page surface a stream video. I can create a Microsoft form and show it there for a server. I can even show the results from a form that's being filled in on a page. I can add my Yammer on SharePoint pages, because why would I expect people to navigate away to Yammer if they can get it right there where they're working on their site, etc. I can add sways to SharePoint pages. They're incredible. Sways are absolutely incredible on pages. Of course, I can add my automation, my Power BI reports. All of those are available as well. And of course, all my content is still there. So please understand how these apps, SharePoint, especially SharePoint and Teams, have become a glue that kind of brings all of these apps together and makes them work together. So I think that's pretty important for me, is that people would understand that. Now, these specific examples is blogs that I've written that I think you would definitely have fun with to go and try and build. These are blogs, and these are little co-innovation processes that I've built by using multiple apps and services. So the first one there, I built about 3 years ago because people kept on asking me for my business card on conferences, and I just got too lazy for that. So I built this process that I've got a QR code on my phone that people can scan on my lock screen, and it then goes, that little QR code then goes and Power Automate picks it up, writes it into a SharePoint list. It then goes to Teams, notifies my team that I've met someone new. It goes to Planner, it logs a task for me and says, Trace, you must follow up with this person. And it then sends that person an email with my vCard attached to it, so with my contact details. But it even takes the details and writes it into a little contact database that I've got, a little CRM on SharePoint, but you can write it into Dynamics as well. So there's lots of little ways, like you can use different apps like this together to do really cool things. Power Automate. I've even written some Power Automates to pick up specific words that I use in OneNote and to start activity for me on that, to start a planner task. So there's incredible things that you can do, and that's just some inspiration for you to go and look at that, because we don't always have time. I mean, I would much rather spend my time to change the culture and the way that you think, and then you can go and teach yourself. So there's definitely some resources I want you to take a look at. And That brings me there, but I'm going to go out of the presentation. I've got a couple of minutes left, and I just want to have a look. So, Christian, just to confirm for me, please, that you can still see my screen.
I can still see your screen. I see all the
Oh, my cute little icons.
yes, icons.
Icons. So something I want to leave you with, because I'm going to start wrapping up, because there's no point, demo gods, there's no point. I'm not going to try and build an app now. It's not going to happen. I want you to think different about the things you put together. When users looks at this dashboard, they go like, oh my word, there's just too many apps. I'm like, you can't think of it that way. Think of those as ingredients in a recipe. Think of it as baking a cake, and you need eggs and milk, and well, actually I don't know, because I don't bake, so I'm not quite sure. But brandy, I think you need brandy for cakes. I can't remember. But think of those as all as little ingredients that goes into baking a cake or making a nice lasagna or something. And without all of those little things, I mean, they just make them better and better. Now here's a cool example I had in the last 2 days. I actually discussed this with another client, and we just brainstormed this, and we thought, like, man, couldn't that work really incredible? So as most of us knows, SharePoint's not supposed to be an LMS, okay? It's not going to completely track your learning systems and things. I mean, there's things you can build, but out of the box, it's not just going to do LMS, learning management systems. But let's think about this for a moment. You obviously created some forms, Christian. Have you done sways?
I have done sways, yes.
Oh, have you? I'm so proud of you. So let me tell you, that sway is one of my favorite things. I really hope that that's around for a long time, because, man, I've done a lot of cool stuff in sway. So here's a cool example. For those who doesn't know sway, if I look at these things, so firstly, the things I want you to think of, this little recipe I want to bake quickly, and I'm not going to build it right now. I'm going to just talk through a couple of things. The first thing is forms, okay? So forms you can use for quizzes and surveys. So I can build a quiz that says people, what is the options, like a little monkey puzzle, and then based on their answers, it does a scoring. So I can work out whether people need awareness training or not. So I can do a quiz in forms. Then I can obviously load videos and stream. So I can load cool videos and stream. And I can also add other cool things. So if I look at a sway, if I say that this is a sway, so it's about thinking about how you put things together. And I think the most important thing you have to do is to get to know the apps well enough, because then you'll know which ingredients to use. If you don't know what salt tastes like, then you might put it into the wrong, I don't know. Well, apparently salt does go into cakes. I think it might do. I don't know. But if you don't know what ingredients do, then you can't cook decent things. So you've got to figure out what these little apps and services do and try them all out, because then you'll understand what these strong points are and what you can use them for. So if I had to look at this way, if I had to build, let's say this is a e-safety awareness campaign, okay? And I need to make sure that people have watched the video, and I need to make sure that they fill in a quiz and stuff. So instead of doing that on email, because that's what we do, we're going to send an email out, we're going to put an attachment on it, I'm going to put a link in it to a video, and I don't know, and then I'm going to hope and pray that people actually do this. But with a sway, I can actually then go and say, hey, I want to add some text here, so we're going to add some really, really important text here. And then with sways, what I want you to think of is, for example, if I go to media, you'll see that there's embedded code. So that means I can add other apps and services in here. So I could go to stream. I just want to see if stream's open. I don't want to close the webinar. I think that's stream. I can go to stream. And oh, there's Bram, cutie. So I can go to stream, and I can find a video. I've got to just pause anything before it plays. I've got to find a video. Hold on a second. Hold on. One momento, it might start playing. Sorry. Okay. There we go. So I can go to stream, and I can go find a video, and I can find the sharing link. So that means I can share a video. I can get the embedded code. So there's the embedded code. I can copy this, and that means I can add it on a sway, right? So I can add a video on the sway, but I can also add a form on the sway. So think of adding a video, and think of this form. So this is Microsoft Forms, right? So think of this form being a little quiz that people have filled in. So here's a little form. I can go build a little quiz. I can say, what do you think these answers are? So what is the top 5 questions? And again, you can get your sharing links, and there's your embedded code to the form. So if I go back to this way, I can also add the embedded code there. So this can become like an information pack where you ask questions, you share a video, you share information. I share links to other things. I understand what people's understanding is, so I can kind of like benchmark that through doing a quiz. And that means that when people open it, so let's quickly see, let's just add a quiz here. So we'll say safety awareness or e-safety awareness. And then I can say, I'm going to just use an example. What is the purpose? And we can say to save money. We can say to leave work early. We can say to drink wine. So, and of course the correct question is to drink wine, and I can then give it a scoring and say that if it's correct, I get 10 points. Okay, so this is a survey where you can ask questions to benchmark people's ideas. I'm pretty sure everyone on this webinar is going to think that I do drink a lot of wine, but you are right, because I come from South Africa and that's what we do. So if I then look at this very, very cool little quiz that I've built, and I then go to embedded code, and I'm going to go copy that code, and I go back to the sway, that means that I can actually build the sway in here. And then another cool thing is, of course, I can add a background image. Now, of course, with Office Online, you've just got a lot more options to do. Really cool. Oh, look at that. Let's look for e-safety campaigns. Let's find something. Come. Someone. Ooh, people speaking at conferences. That's quite boring. So let's just say e-safety. Well, it would have been boring if that was me, Christian. That's just rude.
And not to interrupt your flow here, but you could also embed that form in a PowerPoint and then embed the PowerPoint and view the PowerPoint in a sway. So there's multiple ways of doing that same activity. So
let's see if you're going to teach me something now, Christian. So are you meaning to add the PowerPoint by uploading a file?
Yeah. So you could actually, have a viewed, share out a PowerPoint inside of a sway, and you can have a form embedded within that PowerPoint presentation.
But would you do that by uploading a physical file here? Is that what you mean?
You could do that there, or you could have it elsewhere, like in a slide share, and have it hosted.
Oh, to just use the PowerPoint then instead of the sway. Is that what you mean?
No, you can embed the PowerPoint, display it inside the sway.
I got what you're saying, yeah.
Or you could just have it as a PowerPoint. Yeah, there's multiple ways of doing that.
Absolutely agree. So let's just quickly get some very important, and I am very close to going a couple of minutes over. Let's quickly get some important text, because this is, of course, I work very hard all day, and this is how I generate documents. Cupcake Ipsum, have you ever used it?
No, it's not something I frequent, no. But.
Yeah, so this is very important for me when I do create very, very important content, cupcake ipsums. So there we go, we've got some cupcake ipsums. And if I then go back to this, and let's take a look. So firstly, I'm very full of nonsense when it comes to how I present my data. So I don't use these boring methods. So under the styles, I would choose that one, and I always choose that one. That's just the easy part of me. This image is not going to do it for me, but it is going to have to do it right now. So let's quickly play it and just see what it does. So think of it this way. Here's a little awareness campaign. I can share this with an email. Please remember that you can share this externally as well. And you can also, but then you have to make sure that that form that you're using for a quiz is open for external sharing as well. Otherwise it won't work. But please remember that the stream video won't display, because stream's not available for external sharing yet. So there's my little quiz. This is what's important by e-safety campaigns. It's all about cupcakes, as one does. And then there we can go. There's my Microsoft video, which I am going to skip immediately. I can go and play it there. There's Brahm. And then here's my little quiz that says, hey, what's most important to you? And I can get a scoring. So I think that's just a very, very simple example of how co-innovation works. It's not about building the monster. It's something about doing the simple things first. I mean, that's just something that really, really works for me. So Sway is one of those things. Forms is one of those things. And then, of course, Power Automate, bringing a lot of things together. And I just want to kind of wrap this up. So if I go to my blog, those couple of ones that I shared on the last slide, I just want to open this up. So these are ideas that I shared here. I just want to bring your attention to that again. So if I go to my blog and I search for contacts, I really urge anyone to try and go and build this, because it was a lot of fun doing this, and it was so empowering for me to use all those different apps and services together to solve a problem. And this is a great marketing tool as well. So if you go and look at this blog, this is the perfect way to show co-innovation in companies, how little apps together does incredible things. So if I look at this, something I wanted to achieve, and of course this beautiful process flow was built in PowerPoint as one does. But there's my little process flow, and I created this form that people can fill in. I downloaded the QR code. I then went to SharePoint and I created a list that looks exactly like my form fields because I want to write the database in SharePoint though. I created a flow or a Power Automate. So here you can see the different steps that I followed. It creates an item in SharePoint. It gets the V card for the email it must send. It sends an email to the person. It posts a message to Teams. It then creates a task for me. So there's all the little steps that you can follow. I'd love feedback if you've tried it. I, of course, then went to PowerPoint. I used that QR code and I created a very cool lock screen for my phone, which means I don't have to unlock my phone because, again, that's never a good thing to do is unlock your phone and open your album art, I don't know, in front of someone you don't know. So so that was just a great way of doing that. But that's just one of those very, very simple ways of solving like complex solutions. And I do think a lot of companies these days, I see them doing like little hackathons or something, but be careful of that because end users tends to think that a hackathon is a very complex thing that you're going to do, and it's not. So why don't you do little co-innovation things where people must use 2 or 3 apps together to solve a business solution, and you can have a winner every month and you can have a winner once a month. But that kind of wraps me up, Mr. Buckley and everyone that's on the call. I do hope that this has inspired you in some way to think about how you can use the different apps together. I do think something that's very, very important for me is that I want you to have empathy. I'm always going to slip that in there. I'm going to spend less time on the technical stuff, and I'm going to spend more time to make you guys think different and to change your cultures. Because I can promise you, if we fix people, let me just go in my closing slide. It's my favorite image. If we fix people, I can promise you they can teach themselves anything. If we invest enough in our users and our employees, which is our greatest assets, they can do absolutely anything and they can achieve anything. And if that's the last thing I want to leave you with tonight, then it's that. And that kind of wraps me up.
I like that phrase of if we fix people. Of course, I've had girlfriends in the past that have tried to fix me. It didn't work out, but
well, they were obviously very unsuccessful, so maybe, I don't know.
No, I really appreciate it. I love the idea, though, of having that, like a productivity hackathon where it is, no code to low code, as we've shown here, utilizing the apps that are out there and looking for innovative ways of solving, common problems in an organization. And so it'd be, I like that idea of companies doing more of those types of events.
Yeah.
Well, listen. I know that we're over, and we've got a couple people dropped off. But we'll. Are you going to make the slides available? Will we be able to point?
Absolutely. I'll absolutely make it available. Do you want me to share it on SlideShare and share it on Twitter with you using the hashtag?
Just send it. Yeah, send it to me, and I'll include it with the recording. So for everyone else here, the recording will be out on YouTube, and we'll share that out. And of course, for future activities, especially if you're located here in Utah, check out meetup.com and search on Muggut, M-U-G-U-T. So the Microsoft User Group Utah, where we're trying to do at least monthly, have the various guest experts, fellow MVPs, come and present to our user group. But of course, everybody's always welcome to join from wherever you are in the world. So. Well, I'll let you get back into your busy evening of winding down and wine tasting.
Well, yeah, it's called winding down.
Right, yes. Now you're just whining.
Hey, wine reduces my wine, okay? Yeah. I'm saving humanity. Don't start with me.
There you go. Well,
Kristen, thank you so much. It was such an honor for me to be part of this. I really enjoyed sharing my thoughts.
Well, thanks for joining, and we'll see you in a month at the summit.
That's correct. After traveling all across the world again, of course, as always.
You get out in 2 or 3 times, and then we'll see you in Seattle. So,
absolutely. Thanks so much. You have an awesome day, and we'll chat soon. And cheers to everyone. Thanks to everyone who joined us.